Hi, and welcome to another session of Vision of Growth. I'm your host, Larry Sassano. I'm the president of the Economic Development Council, serving Okaloosa County. And today, my special guest is Greg Britton, who is the CEO of Fort Walton Machining. Greg, welcome.
Well, welcome, Larry. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you, and I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate the time taken away from your operation to be with us and our audience today. But I want to get into just a little bit about your background first. If you would share with the audience how you came to be the CEO of Fort Walton Machining, how long you've been there, and so forth.
Absolutely. Background is I'm an aerospace engineer by trade. Went to school at Tri-State University in Angle, Indiana. And my dad owned a machine shop, so naturally just kind of fit into the machine shop world. It was 10 years ago now. I decided to make the move to Florida, and Tim McDonald interviewed me, and started there as a planner, and then moved my way up to a program manager, and then shortly after that, engineering manager, and then the general manager, and then the senior vice president of operations, and then the CEO just last November. So it's been a pretty good ride at Fort Walton Machining, and exciting.
Well, you know, Tim had an eye for someone with talent, and he obviously saw that in you, the way you moved up the ladder in that short period of time with the company. So I congratulate you for that.
Okay,
let's talk a little bit about your customer diversification, I guess, first in Fort Walton Machining, and what does that involve? What is customer diversification?
Customer diversification is basically, you know, we're 80% aerospace and defense, so, you know, the market as it is today is not really great in aerospace and defense, and it, you know, could get worse for all of us. But one thing you can look at in that is we're pretty well spread across the aerospace and defense world. We make product for the F-35, and then as well as the CH-47. You know, so a lot of customer diversification as far as Lockheed, the Boeings of the world, Northrop Grumman's, Raytheon's, the General Dynamics. So we're pretty spread across on the customer base from an aerospace and defense side of the house.
Yeah. You know, I can tell you stories about going into Fort Walton Machining, and you could literally almost eat off the floor. It's so clean, and you don't, I guess someone who's not been in to a machining operation think, oh, well, it's got to be a lot of oil and all that, you know, but I've never seen that in Fort Walton Machining. It's very sterile, you might say.
Absolutely. We try to keep it as clean as possible. You know, it brings the workforce to a new level by keeping it clean like that. It gives them a lot of pride in what they do. We just painted the back facility, you know, with a nice gray paint, so it's really bright and even better than what it was before.
Yeah, so. In fact, for our audience, the cover of our TechMen publication, our technology and engineering companies, is a shot looking down on that first floor and at the main shop in Fort Walton Machining there. So we selected that because we thought, well, this really talks about, with one picture, you know, manufacturing and you know, the sophisticated CNC machines you have there, and I think that it's a good picture. So we're happy to be able to use that one. Let's talk a little bit about your market sector diversification now as well.
Yeah, we you know, being 80% aerospace and defense, it kind of worries us as a company. So we've been really on the move to try to bring in new diversification from the oil field. It's a booming sector now. Got several customers that we've just brought on board in the oil field industry, as well as high-tech commercial. You know, we've looked at that, and then as well as, you know, medical with Johnson & Johnson. Right. So
the oil industry itself, largely Houston-based still?
Largely Houston-based, yeah. But, you know, the market's so fulfilled out there as far as good machining houses. I mean, they're just slammed, and they're just out there trading employees around. So they've kind of started to broaden their search out for companies like us that can do that kind of work. Yeah, because you've got a little distance there between Houston, and there's got to be a fair amount of machining operations between Houston and Fort Walton Beach. Absolutely.
I think what interests me from day one was the size of your operation in comparison to the norm. Couldn't you talk a little bit about that? Yeah, well, currently we're about 185 employees for 105,000 square feet. It's 2 divisions now.
and it's a it's growing as far as our second division, and we look for good things to happen in the future.
So 105,000 square feet. What would you say is the typical manpower for a precision machine operation and square footage? Just average, would you say, around the country today?
Just wrote a business plan around that. Actually, it's 125 is kind of the average in our classification, but most of them are down in that 50 to 75 range, and probably square footage in the 40,000 to 50,000 square feet.
Yeah, so you're about double, at least, and triple in some cases, the average size of a machine operation. And do you think diversification has allowed you to be the size you are today?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is the key.
Yeah.
Why are you heavy into metal finishing? Does that, the companies you mentioned, do those companies need metal finishing that they can't get elsewhere?
Yeah, Tim and I, back 3 or 4 years ago, we're going to do something, maybe 5 now, we're going to do something in the metal finishing world, and the ROI just wasn't there when we first looked at it. But we determined, I think it was 2008 now, that we were going to build a metal finishing facility because we got tired of product not being on our dock on time. Once it got out of our facility, we lost control of it. And there just is a market need out there for that service. And so today we've got, the chemical finishing, anodized chem film, passivation, non-destructive testing, shot peening, and mag particle inspection. So we've got all those services under one roof today.
Yeah.
So.
Now, how many metal finishing operations are within a certain, let's say, 50-mile radius of your operation?
Within a 50-mile radius?
Just ballpark.
Very few.
Very few.
Maybe a couple,
And maybe a 100-mile radius, a few more?
A few more, yeah.
So what you're telling us is that the metal finishing, there's a demand for what you're doing, yet there's not a lot of available companies that, why is that?
It's so hard to get in metal finishing today. You got to have the right certifications to get in there, and that's what we found. We thought, actually, when we built it, we thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was. A lot of our customer base today, and especially in the aerospace and defense world, is asking for NADCAP approvals. And those are approvals that they will not come in and certify you as a vendor for them unless you have that. It's kind of the chicken and egg thing.
Yeah.
You have to have the NADCAP approval before you can bring a customer on, but you have to have the history behind you to be NADCAP approved. So, we've built the facility for the aerospace side of the house. It was how we've tailored that.
So, with the demand now that you've created for your company, do you have the qualified personnel to do the metal finishing?
Yeah, we do. We've got a lot of great people over there. I'm so proud of that group over there. We built that thing from, ground zero. We was just a shell of a building, and they really put in a hard effort to get this thing going. It's a lot of hours. If you went to that facility and looked, you talked about how clean our floor was at our manufacturing side of the house. It's as equally as clean. You could eat off of it, and you wouldn't find another metal finishing facility in the southeast anyway that has the type of equipment we have with the cleanliness and the high-tech equipment we have.
How do you market that? You obviously have a great customer base with the Boeings and Lockheeds and the General Dynamics, some of these other prime contractors. How do you market yourself outside of their network?
Well, it's been difficult because a lot of our customers that we'd be targeting feel like they're our competitors in some cases, unless you get out in the Boeings and the Lockheeds of the world. And so we just hired a salesman for metal finishing to help try to boost that up a little bit and target the right group. And we've also went on a campaign to say, hey, it's a separate facility. Our manufacturing facility doesn't see what we're even doing over there. Yeah. So you don't need to be worrying about the competition level. We just want to give you a good service that you deserve.
Excellent. Well, you talked to the EDC previously about structuring a special kind of training program that you felt other companies in the area could also take advantage of. Can you elaborate on your idea?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, today it's difficult to find people in our trade, and you know, we're wanting to build this as a manufacturing area, and it's just difficult to find those people locally, and what we end up doing is stealing from one another or hiring from outside the state, which is not a problem, or do training programs like we have currently in-house of, you know, not really an apprenticeship training, but on-the-job training. But there's a lot of time and money that we put into doing that, and every company in this area is doing about the same. Yeah. And what I'm really looking for is, you know, the colleges to get together, UWF, Northwest Florida State College, and maybe make it a three-legged stool, you know, the EDC be involved and TechMan be involved. Definitely. And come up with a manufacturing excellence center to where we can truly bring people up through this manufacturing excellence center that has purchasing capabilities, and you know, whether it's soldering that we need in the area, whatever we may need, machining, 5-axis machining, CNC programming, CAD and drafting, and make it to where those people, when they come out, maybe they can't just go and fire a machine up, but they have the basic soft skills and backgrounds behind them to be able to come into our workforce and work, and they'll make good money at it.
Yeah, I think that that last thing, the making good money at it, is something that is an educational element as well to the public, to know that, you know, you can make some good money in this industry. And the way you're diversifying your company, you're bringing other opportunities for people to create jobs for them, and with special training, and you're bringing in the element of the training, and other companies can take advantage of it as well. Where do you see that facility being located? Do you see it in one of your facilities? Do you see it at a neutral, kind of a neutral facility, so that these different companies can go in for these similar type training needs?
You know, I see it probably on a neutral site. That's probably the best, only because of, you know, other companies would want to take advantage of that training center, and would they feel uncomfortable coming into, you know, Fort Walton Machining, especially if it was somewhat of a competitor. But really what I see is that, you know, whatever it takes to get it done, we're on board with it. And I've talked, you know, Tim supported the educational system for a long time.
Oh, absolutely.
And Jan's completely on board with the same thing. So
now your market diversification, let's talk about the different avenues. You have the aviation aerospace. That's still a good part of your business? Yeah.
We're hoping that, you know, 60% this year, that's where we're wanting to drive it down to.
Okay. Yeah. And then the Johnson & Johnson?
Mm-hmm.
What part of that is it?
They're about 5%.
Okay, so that's never really gone too big, but it's always been steady.
Yeah, actually, you know, years ago they were a lot more, but they were really busy and adding a lot of machines to their facilities, and that really kind of busted it open for us for a short period of time. But they've always been pretty consistent thereafter, year after year.
And then the oil industry, with the machines there, what part of that has grown to be a part of your business?
We're trying to get that to about 15% this year. Last year it was about 10%, 8 to 10% of our business. But we've added another oil field customer since then, so that's kind of helping bring that up.
So you've doubled, or you're looking to double in that time period. That's excellent to do that. So that means that there's opportunities there for you. Now, the tolerances you said on the aviation aerospace and optical are pretty close, but on the equipment that you work on for the oil spill, the tolerances are not so tight.
No, they're not real tight. I mean, you know, what's good about the oil field work is that it's a lot of 5-axis machining, and we're really big into 5-axis. We have 16 spindles that are 5-axis, which is kind of unusual for, you know, machine shop.
Yeah.
So
so that industry, did you select them or did they find you?
We were at a trade show in Houston. It's been 6 or 7 years ago, and it was kind of just a bump into them, and they kind of quizzed us about what our capabilities were. They made a couple visits, but it didn't really go as fast as we wanted it to. But the last 3 years, it's really started to pick up, and that's just because we've proven ourselves to them. You know, our 5-axis capabilities with on-time delivery and a good quality product.
Excellent. So you're at what are you projecting, Greg? And let's say today you're at 185 people roughly. Let's say, what are you looking at 2 to 3 years down the road here? Just
2 to 3 years down the road, we look at metal finishing to about double. There are 20-some people over there today. So, you know, I think we'll be 40 people over there, yeah. 3 shifts running. So with that growth itself, I'm going to say in the 240 range, 250 range by 2 or 3 years down the road. That's
going to put you, I'm going to bet that puts you in the top 5 or 10% of machining operations as far as the size. When the average size today is roughly 50 to 60 people. So you really are stepping out into a whole nother level out there with your operation diversification. Do you find that machining, precision machining operations tend to focus on one area and they get real good at that area and then they just keep doing that rather than do what you're doing today?
I think so. You know, there's a comfort zone there. It's hard for change. Some people don't do change well, and as a company, we've always been aggressive in what we do and accept change. And so, you know, it's been difficult, I'm going to tell you, to get into some of the areas because of, you know, the type of materials that you have to work with versus the aerospace. A lot of what we do is aluminum in the aerospace world, and a lot of the oil field is a harder material. So there's been a learning curve there from the perishable tooling and how you buy it and where you buy it at and speeds and feeds you need to run that machine at. But our guys are good and they can get over that hump, and they have. So,
do you attend a lot of trade shows?
We try to do 2 a year, and we've always felt that if you get one good customer from that trade show, it was well worth the trade show itself. Today, though, I'm going to tell you I think our advantage is word of mouth. Everybody out there knows Fort Walton Machining. If you're at a trade show, you know, you'll hear them walking down the aisle, well, that's our competitor, you know. So they've heard about us. Yeah. They know about us, and I think that from that, our customers, that's where we gain our customers at, is from just word of mouth.
Well, you know, Greg and I shared this before we began taping, that we both come back with the same background working. My dad had a precision machine shop, made precision parts for small aircraft, and your dad was in that industry too, so it's interesting. I didn't go in that industry, but I worked there. I used to work in my dad's shop, you know, in the summertime when I'd come home from school, and I had a lot of respect for what my dad did after working there, kind of for him, you know. It's funny how I ended up working, you know, with companies like yours and getting a little better understanding of how important that industry is, you know, particularly your end of it, because there are machine shops and then there are machine shops, as we both know.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about some of your work with Lockheed, like the F-35 contract. What does Fort Walton Machining do for Lockheed?
Well, there's several parts. We about have 300 part numbers now, unique part numbers for the F-35. Some for the C-130 as well, but mainly the F-35. And it was kind of cool, you know. The other day, our employees got to enjoy in a ceremony that we had, and we had Lieutenant Colonel Eric Smith come on, come and do a presentation. You know, I don't know how many people know of Lieutenant Colonel Eric Smith, but he was the guy that flew the first few F-35s into Eglin, and it was a great talk that he gave our employees. And what's really cool about that is you can see the airplane flying in this area. They know that they're building a mini city out there at Eglin Air Force Base for the F-35, and they actually get to hear from somebody that, you know, the parts we built and put on that aircraft and how important it is that those parts are accurate and to specifications. So yeah, it's been a good experience with Lockheed. We were actually Lockheed Supplier of the Year in 2010, and you know, it's been a good.
That's pretty major.
It is. It is. It was.
There was something like 3,000 suppliers, so you were the Supplier of the Year, you know, a couple of years ago. That's pretty impressive, you know. I think we were at that ceremony.
Yep. Yeah.
That was quite rewarding to know that one of our local companies has that kind of recognition. And what kind of work do you talked about the C-130s, is that Boeing work?
It's actually Boeing and Lockheed both. We do some work for the C-130 and some other companies out of Warner Robins. There's you know, another diversification for Fort Walton Machining is there's a lot of aircraft mods going on right now. You know, the government doesn't have the money to spend on new, and so now they're spending on the refurbishment or bringing the technology up to on the C-130, and we did some pretty major programs for the C-130.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Our public audience is very educated in aviation, aerospace, and probably more so than almost any other market in the country. So I think they understand the lingo and what's going on. But Boeing and Lockheed are generally competitors, but they do business with each other as well. So you do business with both of them. They do business with each other, you know, and it's not always as people think that they're always just competing with each other. There is another side to that as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, we've got about 5 minutes left, and maybe a couple more questions. I guess what I'd like to ask you is, what do you feel is the key to your success at Fort Walton Machining?
Well, first and foremost is our employees are just, I mean, they're some of the greatest people to work with. We've got some very good leaders, very good educated people there, do their job very well day in and day out. As I said, you cut most of them, they bleed Fort Walton Machining blue, you know. But so that's the key. We can have all the equipment in the world. I mean, we have a lot of good equipment, high-tech, state-of-the-art, brand-new equipment on the floor, air-conditioned facility. But if you don't have the people that can run them and get the tolerances you need to get out of them and make them work and make the magic work out of them, you just aren't going to be successful. So that's one of the major keys. And I think the diversification avenue as well, you know, is a big part of it.
I think, have you found it difficult at times to take over a company for Walton Machining and create the same synergy that it has had the reputation to have, and then look at an economy that has gone a different direction, and then recover with the diversification plans that you've done? Has that been difficult for you at times?
Yeah, you know, Tim was loved by all of the employees there, and it was just tough on our employees for quite a long time. You know, there's some depression going on there, you know, if you want to know the truth. And we had to overcome that. We had to get the wheels turning again and get the people motivated. But, you know, the biggest problem, as you said, has been the economy. We've done a lot. We stood up a metal finishing facility in a down economy. We brought on a new software, our new ERP system in that same time frame. So there's been a lot of obstacles to overcome. But as I said, you know, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and that's pretty much our group. You know, there's no backing down when it gets tough.
Well, you know, we stand, the EDC stands behind Fort Walton Machining, and very proud of what you've accomplished, and you know, we're there to help you in any way. We know we work closely with Workforce Development Board, with the University of West Florida, Northwest Florida State College, and some great leaders there that I know have been part of your team, and you've got a great board. I know that you could bounce ideas off of. That helps tremendously. Like, I have a great board, and I get the same type of input from them when I need to see what direction we need to take our organization. So I know that's equally important to you and your team. But I always feel good about going into Fort Walton Machining, because I feel like I'm going home. I see those machines in there, and remember working on, of course, I never worked on those sophisticated machines that you have, but it does bring back good memories, and I think probably for you as well, you know,
Absolutely.
with your dad. Well, we've got just one time for maybe one more question, or maybe if you'd like to wrap up with the audience your thoughts about the future for Fort Walton Machining and what it means to them. You know.
Right. Well, the future for Fort Walton Machining for this area, and hopefully we can, you know, grow like we said we're going to. We've got all the plans in place to do that. Is we want to build the facility, and you know that will bring jobs to this area, which we need to bring as well. And you know, anything we can do for the EDC area, you know, don't hesitate to ask. We'll definitely do that. We appreciate everything you do for the EDC. I know you work very hard at it, friend. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Greg Britton, CEO of Fort Walton Machining, and a good friend and a good ally as well. So I hope you enjoyed this show. I enjoyed asking Greg the questions, getting the answers back from him, and gives me a little better insight to companies that are in our backyard and how we can help them. So thank you for joining us today. Greg, thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it.
Right. And I hope you have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed the show today. I'm your host, Larry Sassano, with the Economic Development Council, Greg Britton, for Fort Walton Machining. Thank you.